Yo, what's good with you? Back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve your skill-based matchmaking. Much in the same vein as the title screen that you see every day logging in, today I wanted to talk to you guys about the armored personnel carriers recently introduced into Enlisted. Honestly, I'm surprised it took them so long to add something like this into the game, considering that many of the complaints basically revolve around getting from the spawn to the objective in a timely manner. The big maps that this game encapsulates are a neat touch, considering that they are basically a one-to-one accurate representation of the battlefield at a certain point in history. But in terms of trying to win a game, what is new and what is nice about this squad is that what essentially it does is that it speeds up the pace of which you and your team can get back into the action, along with giving you way more mobility to get around the map and essentially functioning as a mobile rally point on top of that. But aside from that, I'm sure some of you are wondering what's the best way to use or set up this squad to get the most out of them and actually be useful to your team. Or I guess some of you are also wondering if the squad is even worth using at all, generally speaking, especially if you have other vehicles like tanks and planes. I used them myself extensively for about a week, so basically I'm going to share my observations with you guys right now. Let's get into it. Real quick before I begin, I should note that ever so ironically, I did not pay for the iconic versions of the American and German half-track because I am not one to promote spending money for an advantage in this game. So what you guys are watching this gameplay is basically a watered down version of this squad. It's used to, entice people to pay $25 for a version that has ever so slightly better armor and also comes with a machine gun, to give you a little bit more incentive, like I said as well. If you do use the free version of this APC squad, just understand that basically what you will receive is a transport vehicle that is quote-unquote not armored and more or less basically a pickup truck with no real defensive capabilities as such, from surviving a little bit of small arms fire. But such is the way of Enlisted, trying to get you to spend some money, and the game is free, so I guess I can't really knock it at the end of the day. But I'll be damned if I'm paying $25 for an aesthetic upgrade and one machine gun on my vehicle. That shit is not worth it to me. Maybe the other people's can, they can justify it, but me, not so much. The neat thing about this watered down version of the APC squad is that despite the lack of armor and the lack of a machine gun for protection, it's still pretty effective as far as moving your team up in a timely fashion to the objective with a little bit of strategy. Speaking of that, I would say the most important thing to remember when using this squad is that you need to keep your driver alive, and of course if he doesn't stay alive, then some catastrophic things can happen to the squad, generally speaking. The reason that I say that keeping the driver alive is the most important thing to do with this squad is because if he dies, then essentially you cannot move the vehicle anymore, so that's half of the utility right there, if I do say so myself, when it comes to using this squad. I do find it a little bit disappointing that only one person in this entire unit can drive the vehicle. Realistically speaking, I would say in a pinch situation, anybody should be able to sit down in the driver's seat and figure out how to turn the wheel left or right and press on the gas. But neither here nor there. The best way to not get your vehicle blown up, in my finding, is that you have to keep the vehicle either behind the building or out of view, preferably both. That way the enemy cannot seek out or know where the enemy is coming from, and I guess you're the enemy in this instance. Of course you want to keep your vehicle as close to the objective as possible, but again, these things are pretty fragile in the grand scheme of things, and they only provide decent protection against small arms fire, and that's barely even that. As soon as you see another tank or a bomber, you essentially need to get the fuck out of Dodge, because it's more or less going to be over for you, and of course that will be the end of the mobile rally point for your team and yourself. So again, that is why I say it is most to your advantage when you park these things behind a building or behind something that essentially keeps the vehicle out of view, and the enemy will not have any idea where your team is coming from for the most part, unless they go out and actively hunt down your APC. On the flip side of hiding behind a building, I would say that I guess in a situation where there are no good hiding places to park your vehicle, essentially what you should do in that situation is keep your vehicle moving and allow your team to keep spawning from different angles to attack the objective from. And I guess just be aware that if you are going to continuously move your vehicle, you will of course increasingly draw more attention to yourself, as the enemy team will notice that this is where the enemy is coming from, instead of coming from the base spawn and giving them more time to prep, and they will of course make you a more prioritized target, especially since you're pretty easy to blow up in the grand scheme of things. As far as like constantly moving your vehicle around, the only other bad thing that I could think of in this instance is the fact that the enemy might grow a little more keen to what you are doing and start placing landmines as well. And to my knowledge, there is no way to easily spot or notice when a landmine is in front of you. And again, your vehicle is pretty fragile in the grand scheme of things, so as soon as you run into one of those, it's more or less over for your entire squad. The same thing can be said about mortars. So I guess in an antithesis of what I have just said, if you know the enemy team is using mortars, then I guess it might be a better idea to keep your vehicle moving. But better overall if they have no idea where your vehicle is located to begin with, so they can't even target it with any type of weapon. So just keep that in mind. Something that I would recommend, especially at the beginning of the game when using this squad, is that you want to pull up your map and mark a certain area or location that you would like your squad to attack the enemy from. I usually try to park it behind enemy lines on a 45-degree angle flank, whether on the left or right hand side, just to give my team a bit of an unexpected angle to attack from. But of course, again, once the enemy notices you, you probably want to move that to a different location. But if they don't, then just hop out and have your team guard the general area, or hop out with one person individually and do it yourself. When it comes to my squad composition, when filling the squad out once they are fully upgraded, I did choose a certain particular order, and I will explain my reasoning behind it. The first option for me was the radio man, because essentially just to accentuate the supportive role that this squad provides in general, since I'm going to be hanging back and allowing my team to spawn in at a closer and from a different angle, I figured the other thing that I could do to accentuate that squad is to also be able to call in artillery on the objective while my team moves in from a I guess a flank, for lack of a better word. So this essentially just allows you to further maximize the ability to support your team from afar, which is again what this squad seems to do, generally speaking, for lack of better words. The second decision that I made for what type of soldier I would add to the squad would be the medic. Essentially, this allows me to have a better chance of keeping my driver and of course my other squad mates alive, generally speaking. So if they do sustain any damage, which is very likely to happen considering the fact that bullets are not necessarily impervious unless you use the paid version of the squad. Again, the very least that I could do is heal my driver or keep my other teammates alive, which again further accentuates that support role that this squad will undertake. For the last type of soldier that I could add to this squad, it was a bit of a toss-up, but I felt like the better option would be going with the bomber, because again, this squad is very vulnerable to other vehicles and anybody who has a rocket launcher. If I run into another tank or another APC, I would much rather have the ability to be able to do something about that vehicle before they take a shot at mine, for lack of better words. So using the bomber basically gives me some anti-tank capabilities with this squad, which I would not have otherwise, which of course makes it easier to sustain my vehicle, generally speaking, which will help me give my team a longer lasting spawn point before the enemy gets wind of what I'm doing and tries to send the cavalry at me to destroy my vehicle. So another thing that I keep in mind, if you have a different composition, do let me know what it is and why you chose it down in the comment section. And in that same vein, I guess if you use the paid version of this squad and you notice any different tips or tricks that I did not list out, let me know down in the comment section. Maybe using the machine gun in the slightly more armored version is worth that $25, and I would like to hear why. Overall, I am a big fan of the introduction of this type of squad since it has the ability to be a support player's dream, and of course further reinforces the name of the game that rally points are essentially how you need to win in Enlisted. However, the drawbacks of how easily destroyed this squad can be, coupled with the fact that you have to give up a vehicle slot, really decreases its overall value once you get into the higher ranked vehicles like Tigers and Shermans with rocket launchers on the top. So I would say great for lower BR players who want to focus on helping the team. It gets an overall grade of a 6.5 out of 10, but that's just my personal opinion. What do you guys think? Have you been using this squad extensively, and do you think it is a permanent part of your repertoire that should be added in, or do you think it's just something that you should be using every now and then, maybe for low BR players? Let me know down in the comment section. I do appreciate you guys for watching. Don't forget to aim for that like button, shoot that subscribe button as well. Help you find better teammates, improve your skill-based matchmaking, and yeah, black guy out.